The world's 10 strongest chip foundries. Number 1 alone holds 67% globally in the core fields of the global technology industry. Wafer foundries play a vital role. That is in producing what we often call one of the chip manufacturing companies, specializing in the processing and manufacturing of wafer product integrated circuits. According to media data, in 2024, the total revenue of the global wafer foundry market reached a record $38.48 billion, an increase of nearly 10% from the previous quarter. Among them, the top 10 wafer foundries even occupied 96% of the market share. And 8 of these companies, surprisingly, all come from the Asian region. Today, join World's Best to take a look at the 10 strongest wafer foundries in the world. Number 10, Hefei Nextchip. There is such a company in the world. From a $200 million loss to a $430 million profit in just 2 years. It is Hefei Nextchip, founded in 2015. This wafer foundry enterprise, founded not long ago, quickly in the highly competitive semiconductor industry, emerged, not only ranking among the top 3 in mainland China, but also holding a place in the global market. What power enabled a young company to, in a short period of time, achieve such a dramatic transformation? Unlike the advanced process chips that we usually focus on at its founding, Nextchip mainly focused on 12-inch wafer foundry services, targeting 150 nanometers to 90 nanometers process foundry products, concentrated in the field of LCD display driver chips, generally used in televisions, tablets, and smartphones. Although in the early stages, in terms of technology, it relied on the resources of power chip technology. But Nextchip always insisted on independent R&D, constantly breaking through technical bottlenecks. In 2017, its 110 nanometers driver IC wafer yield reached mass production levels. The following year, it began mass-producing large panel driver chips, successfully entering the core supply chain of Chinese panel companies, marking its major leap from dependence to independence. Driven by the rapidly developing display panel market, Nextchip found its own golden track. Data shows that, between 2015 and 2020, the market size of the global display panel industry grew from 170 to million to 240 to million square meters, with a compound annual growth rate of 7.1%. Terminal devices such as smartphones, tablets, and laptops, and the continuous expansion of automotive display demand led to the rapid expansion of the driver chip market, also brought to foundry enterprises unprecedented development opportunities. Nextchip precisely seized this wave of dividends. From 2020 to 2022, the company's annual production capacity 266,200 wafers grew to 1,260,000. The compound annual growth rate was as high as 117.73%, while capacity expanded. Technical R&D did not slow down. The company not only achieved mass production of 110 nanometers and 90 nanometers processes, but also actively promoted risk production of the 55 nanometers and expanded to mini-LED, CIS, ETAG, and other process platforms, striving for continuous breakthroughs in technical breadth and depth. This all-around effort quickly translated to the company's performance level. In 2020, the annual revenue was $200 million. By 2022, it had soared to $1.38 billion. The compound annual growth rate reached 157.51%. Accompanying the surge in revenue, the gross margin also jumped from -8.57% in 2020 to 5.13% in 2021, and further rose to 46.16% in 2022. This is, among mainland Chinese wafer fabs, the record for the fastest achievement of profitability, and not just achieving a turnaround, but also surpassing the industry average. By 2024, Nextchip's net revenue reached $1.29 billion. Not only that, Nextchip also won high recognition from international customers. It has now become the global LCD panel display driver chip foundry field #1 company in shipment volume. Although Nextchip's most advanced process still has a significant gap with top international levels, even within China, it is lagging. But by focusing on driver chips and special process routes, it paved a path of differentiated development. Number 9. PSMC. When mentioning Taiwan's semiconductor industry, many people immediately think of TSMC. But they might not have heard of PSMC. This company, which once had a debt of 120 billion new Taiwan dollars, truly achieved a rebirth from the ashes. The predecessor of PSMC Power Chip Semiconductor, founded in 1994. However, at the beginning of this century, with the cliff-like collapse of its main product prices, the company fell into an unprecedented crisis. Debt soared to over 120 billion NTD, and because the stock price was long below net value, it was forced to delist from the OTC market in 2012. But the low point never stopped the steps of the light chaser. Under the leadership of Chairman Frank Huang, in the 9 years from 2012 to 2020, this veteran semiconductor enterprise began a counterattack of rebirth, repaying huge debts with amazing resilience on one hand, and accurately targeting industry trends on the other, fully transforming into a wafer specializing in specialty processes. This perseverance and courage finally saw the dawn. In 2020, under the name PSMC, it returned to the emerging market and successfully listed on December 6, 2021. PSMC currently owns to 8-inch and for 12-inch wafer fabs. With about 8,100 employees, service scope covers advanced memory, custom logic, integrated circuits, and discrete components. Unlike TSMC, known for technical leadership, PSMC adopts an open wafer foundry platform strategy, co-developing process and component technologies with customers, establishing high stickiness relationships through cooperation. This model not only reduces the burden of R&D resources, but also gives customers higher flexibility in design, helping to quickly meet diverse market needs. Although PSMC in the global wafer foundry market has an overall share of only about 2%, but in certain niche markets, it has an overwhelming advantage. For example, its share in the mobile to MP resolution CMOS image sensor field is as high as 35%. Mobile power management IC share is 30%. Electronic tags reach 40%. Mobile optical image stabilization IC is as high as 75%. In the field of memory required for IoT, PSMC's market share exceeds 50%. This strategy of focusing on specific applications, avoiding direct competition with major manufacturers, allows PSMC to develop steadily. What's more noteworthy is, PSMC is not limited to the Taiwan market. Its international layout is gradually unfolding. Previously, PSMC signed MES with India's Tata and Electronics Technologies, aiming to promote India's display semiconductor ecosystem development. In 2024, PSMC's net revenue reached $1.3 billion, with the multiple advantages of continued niche market expansion, deepening customer relationships, and continuous refinement of technical platforms. PSMC may not be able to compete with TSMC in terms of overall revenue, but in the wafer foundry landscape of winning through specialization, it is undoubtedly a dark horse that cannot be ignored. When global semiconductor industry competition becomes more intense, is it only the large factories at the top of the pyramid that have a future? PSMC used its actual performance to provide another answer, where technology is not necessarily the most cutting edge. As long as the right position and strategy are found, one can still shine steadily on the world stage. Number 8. Vanguard International Semiconductor WIS. Perhaps in the phone you are holding right now, there is a chip from a company whose name you haven't heard of, but which holds an important position in the global semiconductor industry. Vanguard International Semiconductor Corporation is Taiwan's third-largest wafer foundry enterprise. According to the 2024 financial report, the company's annual revenue is as high as $1.37 billion, focusing mainly on mature process technologies, especially 28 nanometers and 14 nanometers. Without prominent process technology, how did we stand out? The founding of WIS can be traced back to December 1994. At that time in the Hsinchu Science Park, established through technology transfer from Taiwan's ITRI. This background is not simple. As early as the 1980s, although Taiwan in the computer manufacturing field already had a place, it relied heavily on imported memory, leading to the entire electronic supply chain often facing the risk of disruption. The 1986 global DRAM shortage even left Taiwan's computer manufacturers in the dilemma of having cases, but no chips. Therefore, ITRI from Bell Labs in the US recruited Dr. Liu Qiyuan back to Taiwan to lead the submicron process technology development project, building an autonomous memory path for Taiwan. In 1998, VIS was officially listed on the technology board. Main shareholders included TSMC and the Executive Yuan Development Fund, showing that it was not just a corporate project, but part of a government strategy. However, the road for WIS was not always smooth. Like PSMC, in the late 1990s, DRAM market prices collapsed. VIS fell into serious losses. In 2000, Chairman Morris Chung announced the complete exit from DRAM, transforming the industry into a wafer foundry. This move may have seemed like a last resort at the time, but looking back today, it was a visionary strategic adjustment. After the transformation, VIS did not blindly pursue the most advanced processes, but chose another niche route, focusing on mature process foundations. They specialized in power management chips, display driver chips, sensors, and other special application fields. These fields, although not like artificial intelligence chips that are so glamorous, are core components indispensable for the stable operation of phones, TVs, and cars. Indispensable core components. As the saying goes, one cannot cook without rice. For this reason, the company built 5 8-inch wafer fabs, located in Taiwan and Singapore, with high flexibility and capacity scheduling capabilities. Precisely because of this, the average monthly capacity of WIS can reach 279,000 8-inch wafers. The company and its subsidiaries have over 6,000 employees. It is a typical medium-sized, but muscular technical enterprise. VIS was not satisfied with existing results. Facing global intelligence and low-power trends, they continue to invest in R&D, developing new materials and new processes, actively expanding into automotive, industrial control, and other high-growth fields. After 2024, with the global semiconductor industry entering a new round of adjustment, VIS, with stable products, mature technology, and a steady strategy, shows full resilience. Number 7. Tower Semiconductor. On February 15, 2022, Intel announced the acquisition of Israel's Tower Semiconductor for $5.4 billion, creating a huge stir. This move, originally seen as a key step on Intel's transformation path, ultimately in August 2023, because it failed to obtain approval from mainland China regulators, it fell through. Intel paid a $353 million acquisition termination fee for this. So, why did Intel take such a risk to acquire this company? In fact, for Intel, this acquisition was far from a simple financial investment. Since Pat Gelsinger took office as CEO in 2021, he high-profilely launched the IDM 2.0 strategy, attempting to reshape Intel's manufacturing model. This strategy emphasizes that based on self-developed chips, part of the capacity will be open to external customers, creating a new department called Intel Foundry Services. Wafer Foundry is not just about opening production lines, a simple game to enter. It requires high customer trust, technical matching, and long-term cooperation experience. And Tower Semiconductor is exactly such an old player who knows the way well. Founded in 1993, Tower, after acquiring Jazz Semiconductor in 2008, gradually expanded its territory through a series of strategic acquisitions and in the field of specialty processes formed its own unique advantages. Its technology covers SIG, BitMOS mixed signal, CMOS-RF, CMOS image sensors, power management, MEMS and non-volatile memory, etc., widely serving customers in automotive, IoT, medical, and aerospace communications industries. More importantly, Tower Semiconductor not only possesses mature customer resources, including Broadcom, Panasonic, Teledyne, Skyworks, Samsung, and many semiconductor giants including Intel itself. Also through the joint venture TPSCO controls located in Japan, several wafer fabs in the Hokuriku region. Its globally operated production bases are spread across Israel, the US and Japan. Also in Italy with Microelectrics, shares 300mm capacity channels. Between it and New Mexico plant, there is also synergistic space. This flexible global layout and diverse technology portfolio is exactly the key for desiring to quickly fill its foundry shortcomings. From the market structure perspective, the specialty process track that Tower focuses on and advanced process giants like TSMC do not compete directly, but in analog IC, image sensors, RF chips, and power components, possesses a stable and broad market. With the explosion of electric 5G and IoT applications, market demand for these small to medium batch, high reliability and customized process requirements increased, and Tower's flexibility and customization just happened to become the foundation of its survival and growth. According to statistics, in 2024, Tower's net revenue reached $1.43 billion. So does Intel missing this acquisition mean losing the best chance to enter the top 10 wafer foundries? Perhaps not entirely, but it undoubtedly slowed down the progress of its foundry strategy. Rather than saying Tower Semiconductor is a puzzle piece for Intel, it's more like a ready-made bridge. One end is Intel's manufacturing capability and vision. The other end is the broad and complex foundry market demand. Number 6. HUA Hung Group. When you drive a new energy vehicle through the city, the core IGBT chip of the vehicle might come from a Chinese company. When you use a smartphone to take high-definition photos, the wafer manufacturing technology behind the image sensor is also closely related to it. This enterprise is HUA Hung Group. The story of HUA Hung Group began in 1997. At that time, China's semiconductor industry was still in its infancy. After more than 20 years of development, HUA Hung Group has grown into an industry giant owning 8-inch wafer fabs and to 12-inch wafer fabs. By the end of 2024, its equivalent 8-inch monthly capacity expanded to 391,000 wafers. Annual wafer shipments reached 4.103 million. Net revenue even reached $3.4 billion. Such production scale is not only among the top in China, but also in the global wafer foundry market occupies an important share. HUA Hung Group's current position is inseparable from its differentiated development path of specialty processes. Inseparable. Its core technology covers embedded non-volatile memory, power components, analog and power management, etc. For example, HUA Hung Group is the world's largest smart card IC manufacturing foundry enterprise, also China's largest MCU manufacturing foundry enterprise. In the power device field, HUA Hung Group is even the world's #1 wafer foundry in terms of capacity, the only company simultaneously possessing 8-inch and 12-inch power device foundry capabilities. Its deep trench super junction MOSFET and IGBT technological achievements are at leading global levels, widely used in new energy vehicles, industrial frequency conversion, and smart grids, etc. In recent years, with new energy vehicles and the rapid development of renewable energy industries, market demand for power semiconductors surged. HUA Hung Group keenly seized this opportunity, increasing R&D investment in third-generation semiconductor materials. Investment. In December 2024, HUA Hung Woxi IC, R&D and manufacturing base. Second 12-inch production line completed and put into production. The line focuses on automotive-grade chip manufacturing, expected to reach 40,000 wafers per month capacity by the end of 2025. The implementation of this project enhanced HUA Hung Group's competitiveness in the automotive electronics field. So, how is HUA Hung Group's technical advantage transformed into actual products? Taking new energy vehicles as an example, HUA Hung Group collaborates with Star Power Semiconductor, building high-power automotive-grade IGBT chips, passed verification by terminal car companies, entering key application scenarios such as power units. In addition, HUA Hung Group also cooperates with international giants such as Microelectronics in Shenzhen, jointly producing 40 nanometers microcontroller chips, further expanded its market share in the automotive electronics field. In the market layout, HUA Hung Group adopts domestic deep cultivation plus overseas expansion dual-wheel drive strategy. On one hand, its revenue in China accounts for more than 80%, deeply binding with BYD, NIO and other local car companies. On the other hand, by taking transferred orders from European and American IDMs, North American market revenue share reached 10.4%. This diversified market structure not only reduces the risk brought by a single fluctuation, but also provides momentum for the continuous growth of HUA Hung Group in the future, with more technical breakthroughs and capacity releases. HUA Hung Group is expected to, in the global semiconductor market, shine more brightly. Number 5. Global Foundries. You might be unfamiliar with the name Global Foundries, but the chips it manufactures have long since permeated every aspect of our lives, from smartphones, laptops, to automotive radars and IoT devices. All cannot do without this company. The basic chips produced. The birth of Global Foundries traces back to 2009, when AMD spun off its wafer manufacturing division to establish this new company and received funding from the UAE Sovereign Wealth Fund, Mubadala. Today, Mubadala still holds 82% of Global Foundries shares, making it the controlling shareholder. Currently, Global Foundries is in Singapore. Germany and the US all have wafer fabs. This point is extremely rare among global foundry enterprises. In Singapore, it possesses one 200mm and one 300mm wafer fab. In Dresden, Germany, it has one 300mm wafer fab, and in the United States, respectively in Essex Junction, Vermont, possessing one 200mm wafer fab, and in Malta, New York, one 300mm wafer fab. This cross-border operation model not only enhances its supply chain resilience, but also earned it trusted foundry certification, able to serve the US federal government and sensitive projects in other countries. So, what kind of chips is Global Foundries actually manufacturing? Unlike many foundries dedicated to pursuing advanced processes and manufacturing AI chips, Global Foundries adjusted its strategy in 2018 to focus on the production of essential chips. These chips use mature processes like 12 nanometers and are widely used in smartphone connectivity, power management, sensors, as well as automotive advanced driver assistance systems, wireless networks, and gaming consoles, among other fields. Although they don't have the same prominent technological halo as AI chips, these technical chips are the vital lifeblood of modern electronic equipment. In fact, the market demand for essential chips is extremely stable, while the R&D costs for mature processes are lower. As a result, Global Foundries also possesses a relatively high profit margin. 47% of the company's revenue comes from smart mobile devices, 18% from home and industrial applications, IoT and automotive account for 17%, and communications and data centers account for 9%. Even without manufacturing flashy AI chips, Global Foundries still achieved a net revenue of $6.75 billion in 2024. So is the AI wave completely unrelated to global foundries? Quite the opposite. The development of AI has also indirectly boosted its business, because the energy consumption of AI computing is 2 to 3 times higher than traditional applications. Next-generation power management chips have become the new favorites of the market, especially with the development of edge AI technology. AI computing no longer depends solely on the cloud, but is instead performed on terminal devices, such as smartphones and laptops. This presents new challenges and opportunities for efficient power management. To this end, GlobalFoundries acquired Tagore Technologies' gallium nitride GaN power business and its IP portfolio. This technology is expected to achieve dual breakthroughs in performance and efficiency for high-power density chips for AI devices, high-energy devices like EVs and 5G base stations, providing superior solutions. GlobalFoundries expects that this acquisition alone could bring an additional $1.6 billion in market space for it by 2030. Fourth place, UMC. Today, TSMC's strength is beyond doubt, but in its early development, it had a formidable rival, UMC. United Microelectronics Corporation, or UMC, was founded in 1980. And was the first company in Taiwan to focus on semiconductor manufacturing, established 7 years before TSMC. Its roots can be traced back to the 1970s, to important policies promoting IC development in Taiwan, led by Pan Wenyuan. And under the leadership of ITRI, they introduced CMOS technology and established a demonstration IC factory, kicking off the semiconductor era in Taiwan. In its initial stages, UMC adopted the integrated device manufacturing model, covering IC design, wafer manufacturing, and product packaging. Then manager Robert Cao gained insight into market trends and proposed a new model focused on wafer foundry services. However, when he went to the US in 1984 to propose this to tech advisor Morris Chung, he did not receive support. Ironically, in 1987, Morris Chung returned to Taiwan to found TSMC and quickly pushed the wafer foundry model globally. This history became the trigger for both cooperation and competition between UMC and TSMC. Despite its early lead, UMC's early strategy for foundry development involved setting up joint venture plants with multiple IC design companies, intending to expand quickly through capital cooperation. However, this joint model also brought concerns. Customers worried about design leaks and hesitated to entrust high-end processes to UMC, leading its customer base to be primarily small and medium-sized IC design companies. This contrasted sharply with TSMC's strategy of focusing only on foundry and not touching design, gradually widening the gap in market positioning and trust between the two. In 1999, UMC launched its 5-in-1 merger plan, merging United Semiconductor, United Silicon, and other subsidiaries. In a short time, it increased its wafer capacity to 850,000 wafers per month, pushing its global market share to 35%, briefly approaching TSMC's 45%. This series of moves brought UMC to its historical peak around the year 2000, making it TSMC's most threatening competitor. However, advanced processes required massive investment, and as customers shifted to high-end nodes, TSMC continued to widen the gap. UMC chose to focus deeply on the mature process field. Today's UMC no longer competes head-to-head with TSMC in advanced processes, but instead uses a steady business strategy to secure a place in mature processes, automotive electronics, embedded memory, and RF communications. UMC currently owns 12 wafer fabs, with a total monthly capacity of 850,000 primarily in 8-inch wafers. All of its products comply with the automotive IATF 16949 certification. It is one of the important foundry suppliers for global automotive electronic chips. In addition, UMC's global service network covers the US, Europe, Japan, Singapore, and other regions. It has nearly 20,000 employees, and its 2024 revenue reached $7.23 billion. Perhaps under the spotlight, UMC's name is not as resonant as TSMC's, but the role it plays is equally critical and indispensable. Third place, SMIC. As the leading enterprise IC manufacturing in mainland China, SMIC not only has an absolute advantage in the local market, but also holds a steady in the global foundry industry. In 2024, this company, known as China's Core, delivered an impressive report card. Annual revenue reached 57.796 billion RMB, equivalent to approximately $8.3 billion mark for the first time, a 27.7% increase year-on-year. What supported this growth? The performance in the fourth quarter of 2024 might provide some of the answers. Consumer electronics accounted for the largest at 40.2%, followed by smartphones at 24.2%, and computers and tablets at 19.1%, with the rest being industrial, automotive, wearable devices, etc. This diversified layout means that SMIC's business no longer relies on a single industry, giving it stronger risk resistance. In relatively smaller sectors like industrial, automotive, and computers, there also lies its future growth potential. Because of this, its quarterly revenue reached a new high, up to $0.207 billion, an increase of 1.7% quarter-on-quarter. The gross margin was 22.6%, rising to 0.1 percentage points both year-on-year and quarter-on-quarter, amid rising global economic uncertainty and cyclical fluctuation. In the semiconductor industry, SMIC still achieved double-digit growth in total revenue, operating profit, and total profit. Behind this is the improvement in capacity utilization and the increase in wafer sales. The advancement of advanced processes is a key highlight for SMIC. In the fourth quarter of 2024, 12-inch wafer revenue share rose to 80.6%, while 8-inch wafers accounted for 19.4%. This indicates that its process technology upgrades have begun to yield results. At the same time, capacity continues to expand. Q4 monthly capacity reached 947,600 with 8-inch standard logic increasing significantly, while capacity utilization remained high at 85.5%. This stability during expansion is a key measure of a foundry's maturity. Despite the impressive revenue in 2024, SMIC's net profit fell by 23.3% year-on-year. Does this phenomenon suggest that SMIC's growth has peaked? In fact, it does not. Behind the decline in net profit is a proactive adjustment of the company's strategic focus. In 2023, amid a global semiconductor downturn and high inventory levels, SMIC chose to increase investment against the trend. Annual R&D spending accounted for 11% of revenue. Furthermore, its annual capital expenditure reached $7.47 billion, far exceeding its revenue that year. These investments are not blind expansion, but are centered on advanced processes, low-power platforms, embedded memory, and automotive chip technology R&D as the core. For example, the 28 nanometers ultra-low power platform and 40 nanometers embedded memory projects have all entered the pre-production stage, although it lowered profit levels in the short term, but in the long run, these layouts are laying a solid foundation for SMIC, broadening product boundaries and enhancing competitiveness, such as cutting-edge fields and automotive electronics. Second place, Samsung. On the top list of the global foundry industry, Samsung Electronics is the only company to possess full industry chain capabilities, chip design, including manufacturing, testing, and sales. This one-stop operational model makes it unique in the highly competitive semiconductor battlefield. Compared to other manufacturers focused only on one stage, Samsung has built a highly integrated and highly synergetic ecosystem, ensuring its huge advantages in product development control, speed, and quality management. So, how did this tech giant from South Korea step by step become a global semiconductor hegemon? Samsung Electronics was founded in 1969, headquartered in Yongtong-gu, Suwon, South Korea. It is one of the most important subsidiaries of the Samsung Group and the source of 70% of the group's revenue. As one of South Korea's largest enterprises, its influence is not limited to technology, but deeply penetrates the national economic structure. The total market value of its subsidiaries accounts for over 20% of the Korean stock market. Samsung Electronics itself is the crown jewel among them. Some even say that if South Korea were a person, then Samsung would be its heart. In the smartphone market, Samsung has long held the top spot for global shipments. In 2024, it was crowned again as the world's largest smartphone manufacturer. Its flagship Galaxy S series and mid-range Galaxy A series have a massive user base worldwide. In the television market, Samsung has held the global sales title for consecutive years since 2006, at the top of the industry. However, Samsung's most core and amazing strength still comes from its massive layout in the semiconductor industry. Samsung Electronics is not only the world's largest memory chip manufacturer, but also surpassed Intel between 2017 and 2018 to become the world's largest semiconductor company, shocking the entire tech circle. Merged. In this market segment, Samsung Electronics' technical strength cannot be underestimated. Its DRAM and NAND flash memory are widely used in smartphones, data centers, PCs, and server equipment. Its customers are all over the world, including major tech companies like Apple, HTC, and Nokia. Not only that, Samsung's electronic components business also covers lithium batteries, image sensors, camera modules, and OLED display panels. Its OLED panel market share has long ranked first in the world, being a major supplier of high-end screens for Apple's iPhones. It is this diversified layout that gives Samsung stronger risk resistance against global supply chain fluctuations and rising raw material costs. As of now, Samsung Electronics has assembly plants in 76 countries worldwide, with more than 260,000 employees. This global manufacturing and sales system gives it unparalleled response speed and market penetration in international markets. Taking 2024 as an example, Samsung Electronics' net revenue reached $13.8 billion. Future technical competition will be more intense. AI, quantum computing, and advanced processors are undoubtedly high ground for nations and companies. Samsung Electronics, with its strong integration capabilities, is clearly at the forefront of a new round of technological revolution. First place, TSMC. Among nearly 200 countries and regions in the world, which company dares to say that its wafer production capacity is stronger than that of all countries and regions combined? This question sounds like an exaggerated figure of speech, but for TSMC, it is a stark reality. 2024, TSMC set a record net revenue of $90.05 billion, occupying a massive 68.4% of the global foundry market. This means that in this field, TSMC alone practically takes on the whole world. This company from Taiwan's Hsinchu Science Park is the key force supporting today's global technology industry. From smartphones and AI to high-performance computing, none can function without TSMC's high-end chips. The phone you use today might be an Apple from the US, and your laptop might have an NVIDIA graphics card. But regardless of the brand, their chips were likely precision manufactured in TSMC's factories. However, behind these brilliant figures, TSMC is not without worries. In April 2024, TSMC founder Morris Chung stated publicly that Samsung remains its biggest competitor. So, is it really possible for Samsung to surpass TSMC? The answer is probably not optimistic. The reason is that TSMC possesses three nearly uncheckable advantages. First is the extremely high investment cost. R&D and mass production for advanced processes require massive capital support. 2024. TSMC's capital expenditure was $25 to $28 billion, about 3 times that of Samsung. To respond to the global chip shortage, TSMC also announced an additional $100 billion for expansion. This level of investment not only boosts capacity, but also invisibly sets up a technical and financial threshold difficult for others to cross. Moreover, in advanced processes below 10 nanometers, TSMC ranks first in the world. It pioneered mass production for 7 nanometers processes, and is actively developing 3 nanometers and even more advanced 2 nanometers processes. This not only means smaller chips, lower power consumption, and higher performance, but also makes major global chip designers like Apple, AMD, and Qualcomm place large orders with TSMC. Although Samsung claimed 5 nanometers mass production, but low yields and low customer confidence ultimately failed to attract key customer support. The third advantage is TSMC's focused business model. In the semiconductor industry, many companies use an IDM model. For example, Samsung not only does foundry work, designs its own chips and even sells terminal devices. From a customer's perspective, this hides risks of IP leakage. In contrast, TSMC has focused solely on pure-play foundry since the start, neither entering IC design nor developing terminal products. Because of this, customers feel more secure in trusting their most important designs to it without any worries. From this perspective, TSMC has long-term stable capital investment, maintains a low profile, pragmatic and long-term corporate culture, combined with a solid supply chain and international customer trust. No wonder it has created such a leading position today. Alright, that's all for this video. I wonder which of the world's top 10 strongest chip companies impressed you the most. Feel free to tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.